Welcome to A New Voice in Coaching, where we discuss the new innovations coaching is bringing to our world. Whether you're a coach or interested in coaching, whether you are a leader in your business, organization, or home, here we have authentic conversations around the practical tools coaching is bringing to every area of life and culture around us.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Abe Brown. I'm with Certified Flourishing Coaching, and I'm here with
Connie Jacob. Glad to be here.
Hey, great to see you, Connie. So we've been doing these series of episodes on the new voice in coaching, and so thanks for tuning in. This is the next episode where we want to actually talk about coaching as a whole. You know, essentially, what is it? And what would the connection be around mental health and well-being to coaching, right? One of the many aspects of coaching is obviously coaches can help me become a better leader. It can help me become a better parent. Coaching as a field can help me in my relationships. It can absolutely help me grow my business. But you know what? A lot of people today, especially as we're slowly moving out of this pandemic, are wrestling with mental health. And so, you know, Connie, you've had a over 20-year experience of working in mental health. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, I started my career on the streets of East Vancouver working with some of the roughest of the rough youth out there, drug dealers, gang members. And it's interesting how much things have changed even in those areas. And not just because of gentrification, but because of the climate. A lot of the kids that would go through some of these programs that we did in those times are now, instead of the innovators, the pushers, the gangsters, now they're hanging their heads in depression.
Okay.
And so it's a very interesting drop in. I know that being a gangster is not a great life, but at least there's innovation there. There's creativity there, whereas now kids have completely lost that. And so that's where I started my work, and from there went into teaching resilience in schools through movement, and have watched how much anxiety has taken over our youth. A lot of people have asked, has anxiety really raised? And it absolutely has. Of course, it's always been there. I mean, when we were kids, it was there. But it has taken a massive toll. It's a devastation. And so my passion for mental health, bringing coaching into the mental health field, has come from watching from a sociological lens for all these years, thinking we need to be able to put in the hands of the average person, the parents, leaders, educators, something that could actually help these kids.
Yeah, and so, you know, that's really interesting. So when you talk about over 20 years, I mean, what are some of the changes that you have seen with regards to youth and mental health in general?
Well, you know, it's interesting. My work has always been in circles. And before, people would get into a circle, youth would get into a circle, and they would be just very comfortable and fine. Whereas in the last couple of years, they get into a circle and they don't even look at each other. We've lost this idea of what it even looks like to see one another. When I've had youth share around a circle, grade 9s once said to me, there's not one day that goes by where I don't hear in the hallway that someone wants to end their life.
Wow.
That's significant. And when they're sharing that in an open circle with an adult that's a stranger to them, this is very prevalent in their world.
Yeah, and yet it's a crazy thing to think about because, you know, the devices that we have, right, are supposed to connect us more. And they're also supposed to give us better access to some of the resources, right? I mean, you can find a counselor on an app, right? You can get some mental health, you know, answers by watching some videos. And yet, interesting why it is. Why do you think this is? Like, what's happening? I know that it's crazy to ask one person because I'm sure there's a lot of factors, but what would you think a couple of those factors are?
You know, you're right. There's so many, and a lot of us think it's the screens. But I think it's this idea that a lot of youth have lost connection with purpose, meaningfulness. They're not falling for the same things before. They live in a different world than we did. You know, when we were in school, it was very much about going to university, whereas now we live in a different world. And coming out of a pandemic and being asked, what do you want to do with your life? What university are you going to go to? A lot of these youth I didn't even think tomorrow was an option right now.
Right.
I don't even know what 10 years from now looks like. Apparently, they're being told that the world is ending in 12 years. So I feel like when we were growing up, a lot of it was, you can do it. I remember Sesame Street albums, believe in yourself, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like our youth are constantly being told reasons why they should be afraid.
Yeah, I mean, if the world's ending anyways, you can believe in yourself all day long, but you got nothing to look forward to. So, so then your career sort of emerged, and now you're into coaching. So what are your thoughts about coaching and supporting for mental health and well-being, kind of broadly speaking? What's the connection there?
Well, I thought that coaching was a great next step, because working with these youth for so many years, I saw such a problem, and I saw these cycles continue, and I love the work with youth. But then I thought, in order to really make a difference in these youth lives, we're going to need to get to their parents. We need to stop the addiction with the parent. We need to stop the cycles with the parent. We need to help the parent, and the workplace and educators. Those were 3 areas I thought, if we could really help in those areas, our youth are going to be okay. And the best place, without having to go get a degree in psychology, because I don't know many people who are like me, many parents, they don't want to go get a psychology degree, just a parent. Educators, they've already gone through university. They're a teacher.
Yeah.
They don't need more education in that sense. What they need is tools. And what I found with Flourishing was actual tools that work.
Okay. So tell us about some of those tools in Flourishing, and what are the different kinds of certification that somebody could attain as a Flourishing coach?
What I love is that, of course, it's evidence-based, meaning it's rooted in research and science. And what really always just blesses my heart is when we have social workers, people with master's degrees,
Yes.
going through our courses saying, this is better than my education.
Right.
Because it's practical.
Right.
And so what I love is that it's a 6-step process. How would you move someone from resilience, which I think now I'm believing that it's really a secondary goal. Everyone I know right now is resilient. You are resilient. You're resilient.
Absolutely.
If you've come through the pandemic,
Still
you're still
showing up.
here.
That's right.
We're here.
Absolutely.
You are resilient, but how do we move people from that resilience to really be able to thrive in their life?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the course. The certification teaches 6 steps. You would take a child, a teacher, anyone that you're leading, anyone wanting coaching through. It's so practical, and even ways that you can experience those steps rather than just being told or listened. It's just so experiential. And so I thought to myself, teachers, what if the teachers went through this course?
Yeah.
Now they're feeling a little bit more equipped to handle a classroom of 30 kids where 18 or more of them have some kind of a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I have 2 kids, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And so teachers, leaders, we have so many niches that target these things specifically, like leadership, business owners,
Yeah.
people who want to be more creative to have innovative solutions, parents, wellness practitioners. I mean, I just think that the niches really nail it down on how does this apply in your industry.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Thanks, Connie. So if if there's a parent who's tuning in right now and they're concerned about the mental health and well-being of their kid, sort of coaching aside, what's some advice you could give them?
Well, if they're concerned about the mental health of their child, I really think that we need to be bringing our children closer. That's been a lot of my own personal journey. We don't send hurting kids away, and oftentimes behavior will show up before emotion, and we need to look what's underneath behavior. We need to really see our kids right now, listen to them. I mean, we have to remember that going through a pandemic as a child or a teen is very different than what it looks like as an adult, and they'll be telling their children what that COVID couple of years were like for them, and how they lost 2 years of education, and how it affected their friends and maybe friends who had died. It feels like a war zone for them. And I think we as adults need to remember that and create a space where we bring them closer, we allow them to feel their emotions, we listen to them, and seek to connect more than anything right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know that, Connie and I, we spent most of the pandemic doing mental health support work for business owners and entrepreneurs, along with many of whom are parents and parents of kids, and just so many devastating stories. And, the tragic thing for us collectively, I think we have to put this on the radar, no matter where you land when it comes to COVID or lockdowns or restrictions. But as we gradually come out of this, the level of anxiety for young people is so high. I know that there's a lot of young people I know in their early 20s, they never leave their house anymore. I know that there's some disputes in schools about, kids who are masked versus unmasked. I know that there's a lot of challenges that are probably bigger than any one of us can solve. And I think for what it's worth, we just need to really listen before we speak. We need to offer love and kindness as much as possible, to the kids first, but definitely to parents. I think that, kind of everybody in the pandemic has had a bit of an agenda. Like, we have to just be honest about that. And I think, why don't we now start putting kids truly first and really just listening and leaning in, trying to understand and allow them to get back to a place where they can feel confident to leave their house. Like when you were talking about kids in circles, not even being able to look and make eye contact. And then you think, how crazy it is, because I'm old enough to remember, like, when you wanted to go have a date, I'm married now, very happily married, but you'd go to maybe a bar or a social event or maybe a church meeting or something. You meet somebody, right? And now, it's almost like all online, and it's really tough for people to make those social connections like you're talking about. I mean, social connections are the key to mental health and well-being, but they need to be positive. They need to be affirming. They need to be supportive. And, I just think all of us as a society, we've done a poor job on behalf of our kids trying to sort that out so that they're still supported through this pandemic. And no matter where you stand on the restrictions, I guess we need to be really leaning into our kids, listening, supporting them, and then helping them to relearn how to do life again. Not just in the basement or behind closed doors, but kind of out there in the real world, right?
That relearning, that's where we're at. And that's why I love what we teach, because here's how we can help you relearn, our kids relearn, classrooms relearn, businesses relearn. And one of the things that I love the most is that we teach a lot of how to listen.
Yeah.
It really makes me realize that we don't really know how to listen. And now we need to exercise that skill more than ever.
Yeah, we do. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. If you are interested in checking this out, please go to certifiedflourishingcoaching.com. We have lots of courses, coaching certification around parenting and relationships and wellness, leadership, business. I mean, these are areas that you might want to explore, either to support yourself in your own work or to the people that you love. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.